Researchers have identified a number of styles of conflict management which differ in philosophy or approach. The 5 overarching conflict management styles are dominating, avoiding, compromising, integrating, and obliging. Dominating. In this style, the needs or expectations of the other party are ignored. This is a highly competitive framework for conflict and often involves invoking hierarchy or power. Avoiding, also referred to as a withdrawing style, avoiding conflict is often invoked by a conflict-averse personality who hopes to put off conflict indefinitely. Compromising, both parties in a conflict give up something to reach an acceptable solution. Neither party gets exactly what they hope for, but are able to reach a conclusion they can both live with. Integrating, sometimes called collaborating or problem solving, this style pushes for a win-win solution to conflict through seeking out commonalities and requiring an open exchange and examination of differences. Obliging, also referred to as accommodating or smoothing, this style attempts to reduce the differences between parties through yielding. No one conflict style is intrinsically better than the other. For example, an obliging style is useful when one party perceives the issue as less significant than the other does, such as the establishment of a casual Friday. A dominating management style can be helpful in emergency situations or in cases of extreme necessity, such as when an organization is facing layoffs or pay cuts. Conflict styles can differ by culture. I've personally experienced tensions between people of different backgrounds or cultures in my department. It's certainly not easy to overcome these challenges and create a harmonious environment for everyone. Culture, which provides a lens through which each of us views the world, also impacts the way we approach conflict. People tend to prefer conflict styles and strategies that are most consistent with their cultural values. People with a cultural background that values individualism tend to choose dominating or forcing conflict styles over obliging conflict styles. Individuals whose cultural background values collectivism tend to favor a conflict style that is more obliging or integrating. Men and women, regardless of their cultural background, are socialized to approach conflict differently. Women tend to be more likely than men to endorse the use of compromise in conflict, and men are more likely to use forcing or dominating in conflict. Conflict can also be generational, whether the generation in question is related to age or to tenure in the organization. Within an organization, hierarchy may play the most significant role in determining how conflict works. Peers are more likely to compromise and share with each other. However, those lower in the hierarchy are 3 standard deviations more likely to endorse the use of obliging, giving up their input in favor of maintaining relationships with their organizational superiors. I feel that it's acceptable for faculty members to bully staff, but that there's no recourse for staff members who feel targeted or harassed by faculty. Conflict isn't as simple as it appears. Conflict is inevitable. Disaster isn't. Regardless of what type of conflict emerges, a surefire way to ensure that it becomes disastrous is to ignore it or pretend it isn't there. Ignoring conflict doesn't make it go away. In fact, ignoring the inevitable conflict that arises in organizations can make it far worse as trust is eroded, productivity is lost, and relationships become less salvageable. Interpersonal conflict can digress from mere incivility to disruptive and destructive behaviors, such as bullying and verbal abuse. Resolving conflict requires an understanding that someone may be approaching conflict far differently from you. It requires a suspension of judgment about their conflict style, which, while is different, is not inferior to yours. And it requires a shift in perspective about conflict itself and the opportunities that it offers. Nothing great is achieved without some conflict. Conflict sharpens the senses. It invites full engagement in solving important problems. However, you must create more light than heat when you engage in conflict. Heat degrades the substrate of innovation, while light catalyzes it. Here are 8 steps for transforming conflict. 1. Identify the opportunity. Perceiving conflict as a learning or growth opportunity rather than a negative effect will enable team members to approach conflict with curiosity rather than anxiety. Cultural and interpersonal differences can provide opportunities to build relationships, learn new skills, and foster greater innovation. 2. Begin from a place of curiosity and respect. Being both respectful and vulnerable generally produce more of the same. For example, if you find yourself in a conflict-based situation, use language that acknowledges feelings on both sides, such as, "I understand that this situation makes you anxious. I feel upset and hurt as well." 3. Keep conflict focused on the task at hand, rather than on personalities. Focusing on shared goals or objectives and appreciating that differing viewpoints may yield new insight can help refocus energy on the task or project rather than on individual personalities. 4. Check your cultural stereotypes. Be aware that there will likely be cultural differences between you and your coworkers, superiors, employees, students, and patients. Avoid imposing your stereotypes of people based on gender, race, age, country of origin, or any other social factor. By approaching people with open-minded respect, culture can be welcomed and acknowledged as a factor in conflict.